Hello, everyone. I'm Łukasz. I'm going to be your host for tonight. And today we'll be talking about improving React Native app performance with practical tactics and real-life case studies. Our agenda for today is on the screen. First, we'll be talking about how important the performance optimization is. We'll give you some metrics and tools to measure the performance. Kuba will walk us through the case study of messaging application, and we'll be talking about diagnosing, optimizing, and future-proofing your application. And then, like I mentioned previously, we'll have a Q&A discussion where you can collect your question during the session. You can go to slido.com, enter this code, or you can go directly through QR code and ask your questions here. So I will just withdraw my test question, but go ahead and write your question, sign your name under your question so that we are answering your question, and upvote the questions that you like during the webinar, and we will be answering the questions at the end of the webinar. So again, I'm going to be your host. With me, Jakub Stadniczuk, our business development manager. Kuba, how are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, yes. It's quite sunny here in Warsaw. And with us also, Eduardo Graciano, software engineer from Callstack. Eduardo, how is it in Spain?
Really cold, sunny, and I want to go to the beach, actually.
Please, Edu, please stick around for the next hour. We need you here. You are our performance expert. You are one of the co-authors of the Ultimate Guide to React Native Optimization. So we really need your knowledge.
Okay, we'll try.
Okay, with that, I will give it to Kuba to start us with performance optimization scenarios.
Thanks, Łukasz. Yeah, so today we want to shed some light on a crucial aspect of app development, performance optimization. We get it. The tech world is constantly evolving, and scaling and rapid growth are the hottest topic. But here's the thing. Performance should never be overlooked, and it's time to give it the attention it deserves. You may ask why performance optimization is such an important topic. Well, imagine you're in a situation where your app is sluggish, unresponsive, and causing frustration for users. It's not a good place to be, right? It's not a relationship you want to have with the users of your app. That's why today we are here to guide you through the potential solutions. But before that, let's first explore the most common causes behind those issues. So based on our experience, a lot of our clients come to us in a situation where performance is being neglected due to the fast growth. So we all know that rapid growth can sometimes leave performance optimization on the back burner, but here's the deal. Like neglecting performance can lead to various issues, such as technical debt that will be a burden for your development team, and for example, poor user experience that can negatively impact your business. And one of the scenarios that we often see is that teams cannot find the core issues when it comes to the performance. So I'm sure that every one of us can picture themselves in a situation where the team is struggling to pinpoint the core issues affecting your app performance. We all know too well that optimizing performance can be overwhelming, and it's easy to find yourself unsure where to start, really. The other scenario are teams unsure about the best way to go. So sometimes teams can be unsure about the best approach to tackle a specific bottleneck in their app, and it's not always clear which solution will be the easiest, fastest, or the most effective one, and will have the biggest impact on your app. The last scenario that we often see are teams always looking to maximize app performance in order to boost the user experience. So for those teams that are always striving to maximize app performance and deliver exceptional user performance, this is the scenario for you. So we know that you're always looking to stay ahead of the competition. So exploring advanced topics such as performance testing will definitely help you with that. Łukasz, you're muted.
We can't hear you.
Thank you so much. I want to make this webinar a little bit interactive, so that I prepared some questions in form of surveys in Zoom. Yeah. So the first question is, I want to ask you, what is your performance optimization story? What are you struggling with? Please vote during this maybe 30 seconds, and we will share the answers with you, and this will help us out to pinpoint what is our audience, what are you struggling with. So I'm starting to see a clear winner. I'm going to share this with you in a moment.
Like a race? Can we bet?
Sorry?
Can we bet?
Please. Yeah. Go ahead. Which one do you think it is?
And the fourth one is hidden.
Let's see in 10 seconds if you are right. Okay, I can see that 4 out of 5 participants already voted, around 80%. So I'm ending the poll right now, and I'm going to share results with you. So Edu, you were right. That's the fourth one. Our audience, almost half of the participants of the survey voted that they don't have right now the performance issue, but they do want to know the techniques. They do want to know how to make their performance better. So that's great. Like, I really like the attitude and angle you are coming from. So
yeah,
cool.
Totally agree. I think the mantra that we have here in Callstack is that handling performance is an ongoing effort.
Yes. Yeah. It's not one point in time. It's something that you need to care about throughout the development cycle. I will stop sharing the results and let's go into metrics and tooling. So what to measure and how to measure it.
So when it comes to performance optimization, having the right process, measurements, and metrics is key. It's all about having the ability to compare the results and see if you're heading in the right direction. So let's cover the process first. At Callstack, we follow the DMAIC methodology that you can see on the screen for all the performance-oriented projects. Let's take a quick look at each phase and the outcomes they deliver. So first, we got define. Together, we identify the problem areas and set clear goals for the performance improvements. This ensures that we are aligned on what we want to achieve. Then we move to measure. Here we collect the data to measure the current performance of your application, establishing a baseline for evaluation. This will help us understand where we stand and track the progress in the future. Then we move to analyze. So here we dive deep into the data, uncovering the root causes of performance issues. And by gaining valuable insights, we can make informed decisions for improvement. Next, we got the improve stage. So here we develop and implement actionable solutions to address the identified performance issues. Our goal is to make noticeable improvements in the app at this stage. And lastly, we got the control. So during this stage, to sustain the performance improvements, we establish monitoring mechanisms and tools, and this will allow us to track ongoing performance and quickly address any deviations.
Yes, and in order to have the data to populate the DMAIC process, we need to create some metrics for us. We need to define the metrics that we want to track. So Edu, that's your section.
Oh, yeah. Well, who's ever experienced the frustration of a slow loading up? I've been there like a lot, many times. So let's go into the top 5 metrics that will help you to identify and improve your app performance. So firstly, we have the FPS that stands for frames per second. Imagine your app's UI as a movie, where each frame contributes to the overall visual experience. The higher the number of FPS, the better. So we aim for a minimum of 60 FPS to ensure a smooth animations and transitions. When the FPS falls below that threshold, the frames may be dropped, resulting in a discontinued viewing experience. It's similar to missing an scene in a movie. That is kind of fun. We have a couple of tools to measure it. That is Flashlight library, Xcode instruments, and the perform monitor from the dev menu. Secondly, we have TTI. That is the time to interactive. Represents the time it takes for your app to become fully interactive after its launch. That includes the time from the app boots up until the UI is ready for the user to start interacting with it. We can measure it using a stopwatch, probably not the best one, but also we can use the performance monitor in the dev tool. And also Shopify has a set of tools that lets you measure specific components like list or a whole screen. Like in this example, the performance measure view lets you measure a whole screen or a big component. Next, we have the app size, which refers to the amount of space your app occupies on a user's device. A smaller app size it not only saves storage space for your users, but also enhances the overall download experience. Many times I download apps using my mobile data because I need something. To measure it, we just can look at the installation package like APK or APA, or going into the store and they will tell us the size. Moving on to the memory usage, these metrics tell us how much RAM our app consumes while it's running. High memory usage can lead to sluggish performance, app crashes, or device slowdowns. And we can measure it using the Flashlight library, the Android profiler, or the Xcode basic profiler tool. Basic because you open Xcode, you run your app, and you see it right there. And lastly, we have the CPU usage, which measure the amount of processing power that our app uses. The higher the CPU usage can drain the battery faster and result in laggy performance. And we can use the same set of tools as the memory usage.
Okay, before I go into survey, let's mention that all of that you can read in our ultimate guide to React Native optimization. You can find it in the chat. I'm sure you can find it in the show notes that we will send with an email. And those 5 key metrics, those are your main metrics that you should track. And those will allow you to establish some KPIs that you need to follow to make sure that your app is performant. There are some more metrics as well, but those 5 will influence the other ones as well. And going into the survey, please let us know which of those metrics do you struggle with the most. So Edu, do you want to bet again?
Let's see.
You are correct on the first time.
FPS. Let's go with FPS.
But okay, I feel
on TTI.
I feel that when you say it, you influence the vote. So probably we should have like a blind vote so that you vote somewhere in the chat that only I and Kuba can see, but none of our people participating in the survey.
We do it in the last survey.
Okay, yeah. Let's do it in the last survey then. Okay, I can see almost 3/4 of people voting. Please cast your vote. This will allow us again to know better about you, about our audience, and what are you struggling with. Okay, thank you. I will end the poll now, and I will share the results with you. So Edu, you were correct once again.
Ooh,
That's the
nice.
FPS. Why do you think that's it? That is. Why do you think the FPS is the most voted KPI?
I think it's the most common one. I struggled with it in the past too, but as soon as I start looking into each specific tool, it's like you will gain confidence and can start fixing it. But sometimes it's also like kind of hidden, or I know you forgot about that.
Yeah, and I can see that FPS is the first one that you notice because your app starts to stutter, starts to lag, and the least voted ones are app size and CPU usage. So the CPU usage, if you have a nice phone, you don't see it that much because it affects the battery, right? The CPU usage affects the battery drain, so you can conclude from high battery usage that something is wrong, but it doesn't really affect your users on nice devices, let's say.
Yeah,
Okay,
and it's long term. You know,
Yeah,
it's like if you use it heavily.
Yeah. So I stop sharing the survey, and Kuba, I hope you can tell us something about the case study.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's set the stage for our real life case study, and we'll in a moment dive into technical details with Edu. So imagine that we are part of a team that works on a global messaging application with a clear mission to deliver fast, personal, and secure communication to users. We all know how crucial it is to provide a seamless user experience and ensure that the app runs smoothly. However, let's not forget that we are in a very competitive market as well. So with these challenges in mind, let's see what kind of issues we are seeing and what made us reach out to Callstack. All right, so we noticed a drop in an average rating of our app in both Google Play and App Stores by 12% in a short period of time. Then the number of customer complaints regarding the quality of communication has increased, specifically related to issues such as duplicated messages and a long delay between sending and receiving the message. From the developer's experience, we observed an incremental increase in memory and CPU usage. We're using our Sentry tool, and even so we noticed that one, even though it was not reported by the users directly. And now let's take a look at our initial findings. So a significant portion of our user base owns a low-end Android devices. So that's something Łukasz mentioned earlier. Users have reported that the app feels slow and unresponsive during interactions. There is also a noticeable delay in loading the chat, leading to the poor user experience. And finally, our app consumes a substantial amount of memory, impacting device performance. So these findings shed some light on performance challenges that we are facing and will be serving us as a starting point for our investigation. So now let's delve deeper into our case study with Edu to discover how we address those issues and improve the overall performance of our app.
Well, yeah, after the definition, we kick off our measure phase, prioritizing client feedback and looking at some common issues in chats, right? Our first focus was on the scrolling experience within the chat feature. We discovered that it wasn't delivering the desired stable 60 FPS, instead was hovering around 42. We turned to our trust profilers, and we identified that the CPU usage constantly peaked at 34%, but that wasn't all. We also look into the memory consumption, which appeared rather high, and it was around 700 megabytes. So with all this information, we go into the mission to try to optimize and enhance this app. So the first thing, the scrolling. The first we tackle is the trying to making some improvements. So we did a switch from Flatlist to Flashlist. It's a powerful component developed by Shopify. This simple change results in a really good performance boost. And it was a really seamless transition experience from the dev side, right? Because the props and API are really similar, so you don't have to do a lot of changes, just replace the name and start working. Next, looking at the code, we found out a large DOM tree, particularly in the item components. These components had like multiple levels because of unnecessary wrapping, and all of that could be simplified. So all that extra wrapping make the DOM more complex. The structure, the rendering time takes more time. So simplifying the DOM, just like flattening, merging, or regrouping all the probably styles, improve the performance also there. When it comes to the networking, we discovered that the app was making a lot of requests, some of which weren't unnecessary. So doing prefetching, some caching techniques will reduce the amount of calls. And we also stumbled upon a helpful insight from a Slack blog post that they are fetching, they made their own measurements, and they found out that fetching around 46 messages was a good number for them. So we use a lower number in this case, but that was the perfect balance between delivering a smooth user experience and minimizing unnecessary data transfer. And lastly, the memorization issue. We found that many custom hooks were using default params, especially with objects and arrays. And those types are not stable. So any hooks that start depending on them, for sure, on every render will re-execute that hook. So we'll produce extra re-render computations and everything. Then on the CPU usage side, during our measurement analysis, we observed like significant CPU usage causing by a heavy logic being executed within the render function. So to optimize this, we extract all the transformation mapping process and we move it into a separate phase, ensuring that all that recalculation doesn't happen unnecessary. Additionally, we identify a scenario where certain flags were being calculated in parallel while their renderItem function was getting executed. So moving that logic directly into the renderItem function, we eliminate the need for extra calculation and unnecessary rendering. Lastly, we discovered that some functions could be replaced with built-in alternatives. Built-in functions are typically optimized and offer better performance than third-party libraries. On top of that, using more efficient data structures allow us to simplify the code and eliminate unnecessary operations. For example, instead of doing mapping and filtering to remove duplicates, you can use a set. You just throw the object there and the set will just leave you with the, will remove the duplicates and you will keep just the single option. Also doing all of that, we avoid nested loops, nesting many loops for all these mapping, filtering, changing and going back and forward. On the memory usage side, one major issue was the duplication of data storage. So it was across multiple locations. So by centralizing and unifying the data, we were able to reduce the memory allocation and optimize the resources. We also observed instances where there are intermediate instances were created just for storing data that certain functions doesn't need it. For example, the reverse. The reverse do reverse an array in place. So it changed the original. So we don't need to store everything, probably mapping, changing, duplicator, or whatever into an intermediate variable just to reverse. You can just do it in place. And you avoid all extra allocation. Additionally, we discovered that a large mapping were being created and passing around, even though only a few specific fields were ultimately used. So to improve the memory efficiency, we optimize this process just by passing only the necessary data instead of creating, transferring all these large offsets. And then we come up with, yes. And here we have the final results. Thanks to hard work and a pursuit of excellence, we achieved good initial numbers, I think. So the challenge of enhancing the scrolling experience gave a nice and stable 60 FPS. And our quest for optimizing the CPU and memory uses gave us a reduction of 18% and 30% each. So in summary, it reduced the power consumption, improved the battery life, smoother animation and transitions, resulting in a great experience to the end user. Łukasz, you are mute. There.
Yeah, so besides like the technical outcomes of our improvements that we implemented, we're also able to make a significant impact on the client's business, resulting in the following outcomes. So we witnessed a notable spike in the number of positive reviews in both the Apple Store and Play Store. By focusing on enhancing the quality of communication within the app, we're also able to successfully improve customer satisfaction and significantly reduce the number of complaints related to communication issues. Also, through our efforts in optimizing memory and CPU usage, we achieved improved app performance and stability, which further help with the relationship with companies' clients. All right, so at Callstack, we understand that organizations face various challenges when it comes to optimizing the performance of the React Native apps. And whether you're struggling to identify performance issues, or maybe you need guidance on prioritizing the tasks, or maybe you just want to ensure long-term performance, we have tailored our solutions to address the specific needs at each stage. So first, we can cover the performance audit. If you find yourself in a situation where you're unsure about the factors affecting your app's performance, the audit is a good choice. By the way, you can see the QR codes on each slide, which will take you to a website, which will have some more details for each service. Going back to the audit. So how it works is that our experienced team conducts a comprehensive analysis to identify pain points and provide actionable recommendations for improvement. Through this audit, we bring clarity to the performance challenges you're facing and guide you towards an effective solutions. Next one, we got the consultation package. So when teams are unsure about the best approaches for the performance optimization, the consultation package will be the right choice. We work closely with you to understand your unique requirements and provide personalized recommendations So our team of specialists will help you prioritize the tasks, make informed decisions, and choose the most impactful changes for optimizing performance. Finally, we got the performance testing and measurement. So after resolving performance issues, or in case you don't have any, like you, by the way, it's crucial to maintain optimal performance and prevent any regressions. Our performance testing and measurement solutions ensure your app stays in top shape. We set up a robust testing framework to catch performance regressions in the production environment, saving you from future headaches. With proper measurement and testing practices in place, you can constantly deliver exceptional performance to your users. Now, over to you, Łukasz, for the last survey, I believe.
That's the last survey. And what Kuba just did is he showed us 3 different stages on which you might need some help. So let us know in which stage you struggle with the most. Is it identifying issues, or you already identified the issues, but you don't know what the solution is, or you want to have your performance stable throughout the development cycle and avoid regression? Edu, you can vote in our private chat, and I will let you know at the end, audience, if Edu guessed correctly or not. And Kuba, you can do this as well. This can be a challenge between you, but Edu already won because he already voted correct on 2 previous surveys.
Yeah, Edu just crushed it. I know when to walk away from a fight.
I pay everyone to vote what I choose.
Okay. So again, almost the same number of participants already voted as in the 2 previous surveys. Let's have last 10 seconds to finish voting. And by the way, Edu already guessed on our private chat and Kuba did not, so he got scared. I'm ending the poll and I'm sharing the results. So Edu was wrong. It's not 3. It's not avoiding regression. It is actually identifying performance issues. Okay, so thank you for that. We will now move on with Kuba, and then we will go to Q&A.
Yeah, so to finish up, we provide services that will address various scenarios for organizations that encounter performance issues. So whether you need a thorough analysis, expert consultation, or ongoing performance management, we are here to help, not only during the webinars with your React Native app. And yeah, whenever you feel like you may need some advice on help, drop us an email, drop us a message via the contact form. You can scan the QR code visible on the slide, and we'll be more than happy to help you out.
Okay, thank you, Kuba. Now to long-awaited Q&A session. I know that you posted already many questions in the chat. I was observing that, but please post those questions here in the slido.com under this link. We will go there now. You can upvote the question. So let's have 30 seconds on this slide so everyone can go there, know the link, know the code, upvote the question, and me, Kuba, and Edu will do our best to answer as many questions from the top upvoted ones as possible. I'm moving there now. I haven't been on this page yet, so I don't know how many questions we have, but oh my God, like 16 upvotes, that's amazing. So let's jump straight into this. First question, the most upvoted one, 18 upvotes, 20 upvotes, is useMemo and useCallback will reduce re-renders, but increases the RAM usage. What variables and functions should be wrapped in those methods? That is a great question. Edu, do you want to take this?
Yeah. In general, you will use for useMemo if the logic inside will be like really heavy to calculate and you only want to do it one time. Of course, you have in your array of dependencies some values that will cause the execution of the useMemo hook, but you try to avoid that calculation as much as you can. And probably that all the logic inside of it will be like worse if you use it just on every render than just a little bit of increase on RAM usage. I would like to know how much is that increase in RAM, because probably it doesn't worth that increase to ignore using useMemo. For useCallback, mainly you will use it if there is you need that function as a dependency, because, for example, the use effect, you call a function and you want to that use effect get executed just once or when something happened. If you don't use, you don't wrap the function in a use callback, that function will be recreated every render, and because the use effect depends on that function, and when it checks, we'll see there is a new one, so use effect will run again. Or even if you start passing down the function, sometimes you don't know how will be used down in the tree, so it's cool to wrap it. Or even if you will create a custom hook and you don't know how someone will use it and you are returning a function, probably it's better to just wrap it in and use callback, will be much safer, because if not, someone has to dig into the custom hook and start looking at the logic if it is safe to use that function as a dependency.
So it's worth adding here to what Edu just said, that there are conflicting opinions in the internet of what you should do. And I read blogs saying that you should do it for everything, the useMemo and useCallback, and that you should do it as rarely as possible. So you need to find the balance. It depends really on your use case. But I think that's the very nice general rule of thumb that Edu just gave us. Okay, I'm gonna upvote the question that we already answered, so we know which ones we already answered. So I'm going to question from Sebastian. When speaking in terms of state management, is it recommended to enable a screen completely in a Redux slice for reducing numbers of re-renders? Any memory impact? I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Could be like wrapping the whole app or just a screen into Redux slice. I will assume that. If you want, I can try to answer something.
Try to give us some context at least, because
okay.
I really, there is some typos here and I don't know what is exactly the question, but just try to give us some context.
Okay, probably screen only will depend on the screen, because, for example, you can have a screen with tabs and you want to encapsulate each tabs for their own state. So if you englobe that screen for that slice and all the tabs are listening to that one, when something changes, all the screen also will be re-rendered. So, and especially if you don't use probably lazy tab, that the screen will only be shown and load into memory when it's showing. But if you go through all the tabs and all of them are loading memory, is the default behavior, changing something from the parent will produce a re-render to all the children. So will depend on the situation. In general cases, you want to just the screen or as close to the scope where you need that state. If you are using that field just for a button, you don't need it to encapsulate the whole screen. the slide give you the chance just to use it in that button, and something changed, the same. Just the button will get re-rendered and not the whole screen, because just there is one change on the state that the button needs.
Yeah, the more atomic the state, the better.
Yeah, in the performance guide, I talk about the bottom-up state structure. So you try to, instead of thinking adding the state from the top, like the whole screen, you start from the small component and you start thinking what it needs. And you try to add the state just for that item, and then you start going up.
Yeah, we will link the ultimate guide to React Native optimization in the show notes. Okay, we answered that. There is some movement here. We have 29 votes on the next question. Can you share examples of moving logic to update phase and to render item?
Whoa, I don't have code, and probably I can share it property, but it's not like a big deal. For example, in one of the cases was trying to mark a message probably as read, and instead of going through all the item list, trying to find or comparing dates, for example, the render item goes through the list, and you can start calculating that date and if it is unread or not. So instead of doing like 2 pass, because when you find it, you have to tell to the component, hey, I found it, so show something or hide something. So you need to do a re-render. So that is making the list go again to the render item. That is something that we don't want.
Yeah. Next question with 27 upvotes, 28 now. Can we nest Flatlist inside a Flatlist or ScrollView inside a ScrollView, or vice versa? What's the best practice? Sometimes you have to. That's the answer. Like sometimes you have to do that. That's your UI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in some cases, like I think the ScrollView and also will generate a Flatlist, you can set a flag and nested ScrollView. So it's not a recommended practice. Ideally, you want to manage on using the footer or heading or different types. You can create a list of the objects that has a type, saying, for example, horizontal, I don't know, something, and you can tweak your UI inside of it. But as you said, sometimes we need like scroll up and down, left to right, and
I feel like this is a very popular scenario right now with a lot of the apps that I use. Like all of the TV apps have this. You have the carousels, like you go down with the carousels of items, and then you select the movie that you want to watch from left to right. You select the carousel down to up to down, and then left to right, you select the movie.
Yes. The important is not make like Flatlist inside a Flatlist and both going into the same direction. That will be like difficult to manage the input handler and the dragging.
Next question with 27 upvotes. Is it possible to use the same performance tools to measure an Expo app and managed workflow, or on a bare workflow? So Expo versus React Native CLI. Are those the same tools, or are those the different tools?
You can use the same one. I didn't dig deeper into Expo app, but you can use it, especially all the Android and Xcode profilers.
Yeah. So I'm gonna upvote this. And then question from Philip. Can you recommend some metrics we can track to help sell the need of performance optimization to the business? definitely, probably Kuba is going to say that, but definitely like track what your users are doing. And if you have a high churn rate, people are not buying things in your app is difficult to operate and you lose money. If you lose money, then your business will try to keep that business.
Yeah, what's a harsh truth is that business will only care about the business metrics and tech will only care about tech metrics, right? And what you can do is and what we actually did with a client from the case study is that you have to find the connection between poor performance and the business outcomes. So for our client, that was the drop in the ratings that affected the relationship with the customers. It was also the less number of users, for example, users less use the app. So what I would recommend is to go to the business and ask if they noticed any bad things during the recent time, right? During any bad outcomes during their work. And once you find this common ground and this common goal that you share, I'm sure that you will be able to have like a proper discussion about how to arrange the budget for technical improvements, because now you have this common goal that will also help business as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Kuba. Next question is from Anonymous with 25 upvotes. How to upgrade my React Native version and how should I plan to do it? I'm at 0.65, but want to migrate to at least 0.69.
Yeah. First, you can use you have to look at the change logs of each of them. If there is any breaking changes or something that you will need to take care and tackle. Also look at all your dependencies. I think there is a command that you can run, align dependencies requirements, something like that. And that will give you like a list of dependencies that will be good to upgrade to fit your needs. And using I think I tried both options, using the upgrade helper, just looking the changes and apply it. Or sometimes I start like a new project from scratch with that version and move everything to there.
I was going to say that the second option is sometimes necessary. If you are migrating many versions upwards, you might need to do that. But the tooling around upgrading really upgraded a lot lately in the past year or 2 years. So it's not that much of a hassle right now, but I remember the days that you needed to start a new project basically. Okay, next question. With 28 upvotes, using uxcam or any such tool can eat up the JS thread usage and affect FPS. I'm not sure what uxcam is, honestly. But if this is a tool that basically tracks your users and possibly record the user flows so that you have analytics in your app, that definitely can impact user performance. When you have a lot of background work in your application and you need to then balance the need for data, real life user data in production and performance. You cannot add a lot of different libraries that do the same thing. You should really pick the best tool that you need and probably stick to it. I remember projects that I've been to when we had different analytics and we had basically recording of what user is doing inside the app, and that was not great for performance. So I guess the uxcam is like in similar area of what I'm saying right now. So moving on to 26 upvotes, I'm using a Flashlist, but I'm getting a white screen before the screen is loaded with Flashlist. Is it a known issue?
No, no. We need to debug it. Contact us.
Yeah. Or just write a comment, ask for help on Flashlist GitHub, or contact Edu personally. He's he's available to help. Yeah, it might be hard to debug something like that. So like first thing that I would do is I would create a minimal reproducible reproduction, minimal reproducible app. I would post it on GitHub and see if anyone has the same issue as I do and is able to help me. Okay. Is there a better alternative to React Native FastImage? Actually, I think there is. There was something released a few months ago, and it's Expo image, and it basically does everything that React Native FastImage does, and it has some additional add-ons on top of this. So this is Expo image, and to my best knowledge, you can use it in Bear workflow and also in Expo. You can use it in Expo definitely because it's called Expo image, but you can use it in CLI project as well, I think. And probably there are some other alternatives, but I know that this one was like released a few months ago, and it's really good. I'm using a Flashlist, but I'm getting a white. Okay, we did this one already.
Thank you.
Yeah, the next 24 volts. How to upvote?
The same.
I did that as well. Okay, 22 upvotes. Up launch is slow. How do we measure what's making it slow? So that's TTI.
Yeah, you can use the measure tools that we said. Also, probably you remember better, there is another seminar from Pizhawa that he goes deeper in all these metrics, especially TTI and all those tools. So you can look at those, but using the tools that we mentioned, you can start at least looking at what can happen.
You can like monitor if usually what happens on the upstart is some call to the backend, some call to the API. I need to verify my user. I need to like download maybe first data that they need to see. So you can monitor your network, for example. Maybe something is happening not even on your application side, but on your backend side, or like similar. You can observe your upstart flow function calls and figure out if maybe one of those functions take too much time, and that's your like the investigation starters. And then when you try to fix it and try to play with it, you observe, you measure the TTI that you set up at the beginning of the investigation, you try to fix, and you observe the TTI if it's improving or not. It's usually hard to see the improvements without the like data. So I'm marking this as answered. When starting a new project for state management, do we still need to use Redux? What's the best practice you will suggest?
Well, you don't need Redux. You can use Context API also, but will depends on what your knowledge is. If you start looking into, for example, Sustan, Shotai, those are great state management tool. Kind of best practices probably following this bottom up. If there are simple states on your screens, you probably can use the normal use state, create custom hooks, and that could be enough. Probably if you have some kind of registration flow that you need to share some data between all of those screens, you can like lift it up and create as I mentioned, substance, JOTI, or something similar to those. So you can store the data there, and if another step needed, it can query. If the final step need to show all the data, you can also have it there. But I will try at least to do as isolated as possible, start smaller to bigger, and don't be afraid to use the normal use state, creating custom hooks. Yeah.
We have a whole chapter in the Ultimate Guide to React Native Optimization where we talk about state management. I also am fortunate enough that in my team in Callstack, I have Ola Linczewska, who wrote a book a few months ago on state management. So if we can plug this, I'm gonna plug this as well. It's a great book, and you can pick and choose. You will pick your state management to your needs. If you want to create really big application, probably the Redux is still your way to go. You have a lot of people on the market know how to use Redux, but there are so many alternatives, state management libraries, like Edu said, Zustand, JOTI, all of that. So you can really choose the best one for your needs. So that was this. And now we have a big drop between 23 upvotes and then 9 upvotes. And we are right on time with the webinar. So I would be poised to like stay here and not answer any more questions. But if you wish us to answer more questions, please upvote them now so that we know which ones you are passionate about. There are still many questions that we didn't get to. So maybe let's do the next 2 ones and then figure out if we need to do more. We will stay for next 5 minutes just to like extend this webinar a little bit. Question. This Flipper plugin is also very effective to measure FPS. Thoughts? If it's effective, then it's effective. Like you can use whatever tool you want. It's just what you should care about is that you have the value, you have the metric. It doesn't matter really which tool you use. If this works for you, then great. What we care about is that you measure. Is it a good practice when you wrap your components with React.memo with custom comparer function? Oh, that's a nice one. Is it a good practice?
Yes. When you need it, you can do it. You have to be cautious with the custom compare function because sometimes you forgot to add one field and your component doesn't get re-rendered because you missed that comparison. Also, it's a good practice, but also you can look at the structure of your component, and probably you can just lift up the state and move around the component so you don't need it. There are a couple of articles. I don't remember. I can't remember the title well now. That is, should I use React.memo? And it explained a couple of cases before actually using React.memo. Like I mentioned, you can lift up and start like avoiding the component that is getting re-rendered because another state is changing. Just lifting up is more than enough, but React.memo is good.
I have a different take, and I'm gonna like disagree with you, but not maybe on performance reasons, but it may impact performance, but like on standard practice reasons. If you have a huge project, if you have a big project and you have 50, 80 developers working on it, and you need to onboard new people, you need to explain the code to them. If you have not standard practices in your project, it's going to be harder for you to onboard new people because it's going to be harder for them to know the custom solutions that you have in your project. It's better to follow industry standards, and the custom comparer function is there for a reason. You can use it, but then you have to be careful how you structure your function. maybe it's too heavy. Maybe you are using this component in too many places, so that function fires up too often, you know? So like my take would be use it wisely, but not overuse it.
Good one.
Okay, and yeah, let's do two more. Let's do the two with 9s. How to improve performance of large lists? Is it better to process prop changes on the list level or within the render function? And that's from Łukasz, which is the same name that I have.
Why did you ask that?
I want to know. I want to learn.
Of large lists, it's better to process props changes on the list. I quite don't
Probably in
get
the
it.
render function. Like, is it like renderItem function? This is what we already touched on, right? In previous questions with your example about the red message. We want to have only that one item rendered and not the whole complete list rendered. I guess that's the same kind of question.
Yeah.
Okay. I will ask the last question and we will be 5 minutes after time. Ideal place for initial app setup operations, setup error reporting, notifications, global listeners in apps entry point. Are sagas better suited for this? Whatever you can, you should postpone. You should have your app start as fast as possible and then handle all the heavy operations that you can handle after the TTI. That is what I would say. Like, try to offload as many things as possible. In like from performance standpoint, you can have other considerations that you have to like do all of the things at the start of your app, but if you don't have to, try to postpone it. With this, I will end this webinar. So, sorry, I'm moving here. And yeah, thank you. That's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And big thanks to the Callstack crew, Edu and Kuba, and to you, our audience. Expect an email with all the recording slides and other goodies. And hope to see you soon again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. And
Bye.
by the way, the email will be sent from me. So if you have any questions or feedback for Edu and Łukasz, just let me know and I will make sure they do better next time. Just kidding. They did amazing.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.